Hey there, Westchester University alumni. My name is Justin Sachoka, and welcome in to yet another edition of Ramblings Live. Now, throughout all these Ramblings Lives, you've seen me in my living room, you've seen me in my office. Today, I'm coming to you from the studio in which I do all of my other shows at. And, well, it's springtime, so it's a lot of floral patterns that you see here. But I'm not the only one that's going to be joining us. We actually have a full panel for a really cool topic now with Ramblings Live, and that is Rams in Research. Dr. Ellie Brown is going to be joining us here with two of her students to talk about the research that she does at Westchester University, and it's going to be really interesting. So I encourage you throughout this whole entire video, watch through and comment along. Leave your comments while we're not actually live. This is a pre-taped recording. We will be going back in and answering them and making sure that we get all the answers to the questions that you have back after the show airs. So make sure you go on in, let us know that you're here, and say hello. Without any further ado, I want to bring in Dr. Brown to our conversation with us. Ellie, Dr. Brown, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I'm going to ask the first question as to what it is that you do. And I do want to say, I want to bring in your two students in just a little bit, but let's get to know you first for a few minutes here. So obviously Westchester University is where you conduct your research. What type of research do you do?
My research focuses on the impact of stress and trauma related to poverty and racism and programs that can make a difference. I'm a child clinical psychologist, so that's the lens.
Okay, so how does one get into that? Like, where did you get started your career at, and how did you end up here?
That's a really good question. My interest in this area started as a child. I was raised in an upper middle income household, but my mom was raised in poverty. So I grew up watching the impact of poverty on some of my cousins and relatives and knowing that I wanted to use my privilege to make a difference. I was particularly concerned about the emotional impact of poverty on children and families, and eventually that led me to a focus on psychology.
So where did you get your studying started? Where was your first college that you went to?
I completed undergrad at Haverford College, not far away.
Yeah, not too far at all. And you have your doctorate, so I hear doctorate, and I assume that there's multiple schools that are involved. Where else did you go to?
Yep, I completed my master's and doctoral degree at the University of Delaware and a pre-doctoral clinical internship in psychology at Brown University Medical School.
Amazing. And the road and the path led you to Westchester University. How is it that you got to Westchester?
Westchester brought me back from Rhode Island to this area. It was a job ad that I saw and immediately knew I wanted to apply for. It was pretty much an ideal job for me, with a primary focus on teaching, but also substantial focus on research, a state institution where I could work with a variety of students, including first-generation college students, and that was something I was passionate about, and a chance to get closer to home, closer to family, and I am so lucky to have ended up at Westchester.
Yeah, I mean, we speak to a lot of alumni. It's great to be able to speak to some professors who, while they weren't here for necessarily their undergrad programs or their grad programs or doctoral programs, but you get to experience Westchester in a different way and through the eyes of being a professor here and a researcher here. What is your favorite spot in town to go out to eat at? That's like my go-to question. Where do you go to eat for lunch?
Oh, that's a really good question, and I barely make it off campus to go into town. But there, it's such a great town. There are so many good options. So definitely
no doubt.
Looking forward to being back on campus next year and being able to walk into town on the nice days.
My problem was I frequented the restaurants a little bit too much. That was my issue, and I think still is. Well, let's bring in some of your grad students. So if you want to actually do an introduction, we'll bring them in one at a time, and then let's have a big conversation all together.
Great. Yeah, Fola Shakunbi is a doctoral student, and he focuses on the impact of stress and trauma related to poverty and racism on children, particularly with an interest on children's neurophysiological functioning. Welcome, Fola.
Hey, thanks again for having me.
Thanks for being here, Fola. And the next student here.
And Estefania Ortiz is an intern with Excel. Estefania graduated in December. She was on our team as an undergrad for more than a year and then continued on in this intern role. So we're so pleased to have you continuing to work with us, Estefania.
Thank you for having me. It's been an awesome opportunity.
Well, thank you all for being here and for the research that you do and partaking in this panel. My first question for you is, what is the ECCEL? Anybody that hears that may not put that together. What does that stand for? What does it do?
Yep, Early Childhood Cognition and Emotions Lab, and we do pronounce it Excel.
Excel, there we go.
Yep, so our focus, we envision a world where all children have the chance to grow up in physical, cognitive, and social emotional environments that support their flourishing. And we know that children are part of families and schools and communities. So we want to support the people who are caring for children. Coming to Westchester, I knew that I wanted to help to bring the resources available in higher education to children and families in need in the community. And through Excel, we have research service partnerships in the community. We work with Head Start preschool programs and other organizations that serve children and families. We provide psychology-related services, and we also collaborate to study research questions of mutual interest.
So, Fola, what is your role? What is it that you do? Can you go into particulars as to what it is that you do with Excel?
Yeah, and so I came on this year. I'm a first year in Westchester's Society Doctor of Psychology program. And so a little bit last semester was learning the ropes, kind of the procedures that we do, how we interact with schools and children and their families, and really collecting a lot of the information that we use to kind of figure out the things that we do as a result of our work in the lab. And so we'll have kids we say they come in and play games with us, and we collect different kinds of information, and then we use kind of information on their life circumstances and associate how they perform on those tasks and see kind of can we explain why someone does better or a little worse than we can expect them to do.
So my mind, you said about how like you'll have kids that will come in and play games. I think of the stereotypical movie where it's the room with like that glass window. Does that exist? Is that the type of situation we're talking about here? Or how is research conducted? What is it not like the movies portray?
Not for this lab. We really go to where they're at, and so we will do a lot of that stuff in the preschool, and so not in kind of glass rooms, all standing with our clipboard.
Got it. Right, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And Estefania, what is your role?
So I have done a lot of work with Spanish-speaking parents, and I conduct interviews along with optional follow-ups. And right now, I'm also working with current Westchester University Excel students, and it's over Zoom, and then also sometimes at the preschool in Coatesville.
Okay, so you have a little bit of movement in a world where it's over Zoom and Teams, and we're using online. How has your job been affected? Do you still have to be hands-on?
Yeah, like some days it is hands-on, but with the parent interviews, it's over the phone. I believe that they have to do them in person and just hand them, but now it's over the phone. And I mean, I like it. I think it's a great way to also kind of get to know the parents a little bit more, especially if they do the follow-ups.
Sure. Excellent. Now, how is this funded? How is the Excel Lab funded, Dr. Brown?
We've been really lucky through the years to have strong support from WCU, support from local organizations and foundations, our arts partners, and even from private donors. Currently, we have 2 federally funded grants to examine the impact of arts and mindfulness-based programming and how that type of programming might alleviate the impact of stress and trauma related to poverty and racism. So in a prior study, for example, that was funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, or NEA, we demonstrated that the arts could get under the skin, reducing levels of the stress hormone cortisol for young children. And those findings matter, especially for children who are facing disproportionate stressors due to poverty and racism. So our current projects build on that work, and we're trying to identify active ingredients in arts programming, as well as understand the particular neurophysiological changes that might drive changes in children's emotions and behavior. And our most recent grant is actually a cooperative award from the National Endowment for the Arts and provides support to establish a new arts research lab based at WCU, which we're calling Research on Equity via the Arts in Childhood, or REACH. So that lab's being launched in collaboration with other researchers at Wolf Brown and with community partners, including our longtime partner, Settlement Music School, as well as Carnegie Hall, World Cafe Live, Play on Philly, and others. And the Keystone study will take place at Settlement Music School's Kaleidoscope Preschool Arts Enrichment Program.
Oh, congratulations. That sounds huge. That sounds like an awesome opportunity.
Thank you. We're really excited.
So how big is the team? Of course, there's 3 of you that are on here now, but how many people are involved in this, Fola?
So there are quite a few graduate students, and we're pretty fortunate to be able to work with Dr. Brown on kind of from a lot of different angles. So like she said, I'm interested in how some of the physiological things connect to these, whether or not you have the more resilient reactions or more detrimental effects in these children over the long term. There are also people looking at it from all kinds of different angles, like behaviorally, kind of what do you see in the day-to-day versus what's going on in the brain, like with cortisol and things like that. But there is also each semester a large team of undergrads that are really supporting that work that we are super appreciative of, because it's difficult to do everything without kind of support in the background, and we appreciate that for that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a huge team that it takes to make all of this work and for all of this to go together. And it sounds like there's a lot of different aspects of this. So Dr. Brown, can you actually break down and explain the research a little bit further, and the different areas, the different aspects of it to anybody that may not understand still at this point what it is that you guys do?
Yes. So when we think about working toward a world where all children have the chance to reach their full potential, we try to work toward that at several levels within our lab. So the first level is that we provide psychology-related services to children who need those services in the community. And the second level is the research. So we collaborate with community organizations to study questions of mutual interest. So some of those questions might be about particular aspects of poverty that are problematic for children and families. For example, some of our work has focused on poverty-related instability. So it's not just the fact that when you have insufficient economic resources that relates to material hardship, but it's also the case that if you have instability in your financial resources, it tends to be linked to instability in other areas of life in terms of where you live and who might be living with you, in terms of family routines and functioning. So we look at aspects of poverty that are problematic, and then we look at what programs can make a difference. What can preschools do? What can families do? What can we as psychologists do to support children facing adversity? And we have focused in on arts-based interventions as one of the areas of interest. So how can arts-based interventions potentially have a positive impact for children facing stress and trauma related to poverty and racism?
I was going to ask, how is it? What are some of the things that a preschool, for example, what can they do? A friend of mine who went to Westchester has a daycare and has young children that are there. What are some of the findings from your research that maybe someone like that, or one of the thousands, tens of thousands of students that graduated from Westchester who were education majors, what kind of things can they do that they can bring into the classroom? What are some examples? Yeah,
that's a good question. So in terms of our research on the arts, we believe the arts are important objects of learning. So we think the arts are valuable for art's sake, but we also have research findings that suggest the arts can be important mechanisms for learning, especially for young children, and that the arts might have social emotional benefits that matter, especially for children facing stress related to poverty and racism. So music, dance, and visual arts, for example, can be used to provide multiple channels for learning, multiple modes for children to hook in, engage, be able to experience success, even at very developmental levels. The arts can promote inclusivity, can facilitate bringing varied cultural traditions into the classroom, can allow children to express their individual realities and help them experience emotions like interest, happiness, pride. And what's more, we think that participating in high quality music, dance, and visual arts classes like the ones we've studied at Settlement Music School's Kaleidoscope Preschool Arts Enrichment Program can reduce stress levels and teach children skills for regulating emotions so that they can recover from stress or find an inner peace beyond the stressors they might be experiencing.
Wow, so that's incredible. That's amazing. And Stefania, why is it that you became involved with Excel particularly?
So I became involved with Excel because I thought it would be an exciting opportunity, and I was really interested in working with families and children. Right now I did have more experience working with children when we started, but then because of COVID, we had to go remote.
Sure.
And I've gained a little bit more experience with parents right now, but hopefully in the fall, things will be in person and I can go on and work with children as well.
Career-wise, what is it that you want to do? What are you setting to go after, and how is this going to help you with that?
So I want to go to graduate school. I just needed to take a year or two off just because I feel like I was in school for so long. And
understandable.
But I thought this would be a really good opportunity for me to do this while I'm also waiting to get into grad school. I think I'll focus on maybe general psychology first and then see what I want to focus on later on.
Excellent. And Fola, how about you? Why was it that you got involved?
And so this lab is kind of a convergence of a lot of factors that drew me into psychology generally. And so I like working with kids, generally speaking, but there are limited ways to do that and support yourself. But I also have a passion for psychology, and so kind of that mixture there. This lab in school specifically, I've worked at a few different labs up until enrolling in grad school, and a lot of the studies we do don't provide a direct benefit. It's like, yes, we're collecting this information, but it might not necessarily benefit you specifically right here and now. Where that with the Excel lab, it's a little bit differently. We can actually provide those benefits through the intervention and then learn more as we are collecting the information, and then help more once we've processed that information. And so
it sounds like there's no wasted opportunity for learning from this. It sounds like every aspect of this, you're constantly learning from it. And I would assume I never stepped foot into a lab day in my life. So this is not an area that I know, but I would guess that that's probably not the case with every lab that's out there, whether it's due to lack of funding or due to lack of help and lack of people that are involved. Dr. Brown, how would you say that the Excel lab in particular, is different from other labs that are out there? And what have you created at Westchester University and within your lab that sets it apart and makes it better than other labs that are out and can be found in the country?
Well, there are a lot of good labs out there, including at Westchester University. But I do think my intention was to build a lab that was directly connected with the community, that was serving the community at the same time it was providing rich educational opportunities for our WCU students. And I think we've achieved that. So the opportunity to provide those direct services to children who need it at the same time as students are learning psychology-related tools, the opportunity to collaborate with community organizations on research questions that are of mutual interest, and to allow students to be part of that research and gain experience and skills that are valuable for graduate school and for their future careers. And we are always learning and engaged in our own process of education, We're also engaged in our own process of examining our own positionality in relation to systems of oppression. So we know that to change poverty and racism, structural, institutional change is needed, but we also know people are part of institutions, and that for lasting change, we need change in people's hearts and minds, including our own. We want to be part of the change.
That's incredible. And for what you see in the future for Excel, what is on the horizon? What do you see coming up?
Good question. We're so excited to launch this new REACH lab, the Research into Equity via the Arts in Childhood lab, with the National Endowment for the Arts, with Wolf Brown, with our arts partners like Settlement Music School, Carnegie Hall, World Cafe Live, Play on Philly, where we understand that the arts can't undo the root causes of poverty and racism, but we do think the arts have a role to play in promoting equity, in alleviating some of the toxic effects of oppression. And we're really excited for the next steps in discovering the best ways to use the arts for those purposes.
That's incredible. And with what you see, Fola, from your perspective, how do you see your role in this, or what excites you about the new partnership and this continuing to grow?
Yeah, and so I also I have a background in education, so it's extending some of the things that I learned through that and getting to be involved in more of that realm with helping develop tools for children in classrooms to be able to grow and succeed. And so it's just another interest piled onto what else I'm already getting out of the lab.
That's excellent. And Estefania, how about for you, with people that are going to be a part of this? How do you see that others can benefit from this lab, from the perspective of somebody who is in undergrad right now and will become an intern and be a part of this research lab? What type of things would they take from that?
Well, I know for me, it's definitely helped me improve leadership skills, especially this semester. So I feel like that's it'll help others as well, and their ability to work with other people, especially with children and the families, by conducting the interviews, and then also working on time management, because there is definitely a lot to do here, and it's good to balance it all out. So
now, are you iCalendar people? Do you use Microsoft Teams? What's the organization program that we're using to balance everything?
Well, I write everything down that I need to do, and then I check it off. If not, I'll just forget.
That's a smart call. That's a good decision. Dr. Brown, if other people that are watching maybe want to get involved in some way, what are some ways that people can get involved? Whether it's students who want to partake in the research, maybe there's somebody who wants to donate money. What are some of the ways that community partners and community members and students can be involved in this?
Great question. So we always have opportunities for WCU students. Each semester, we're recruiting a team of students who want to make a difference in the community with children and families, want to gain skills for grad school, for future careers in psychology or related fields, and definitely welcome students to reach out to me if they have an interest. We are currently studying yoga, mindfulness-based interventions, as well as arts-based interventions. So students with background or interest in those areas are welcome. In addition to our partnership with Settlement Music School, we're actually partnering with AHA, Arts Holding Hands and Hearts, which is an arts organization based in Chester County, and they have intern positions available for our students as well. So Westchester students should reach out and discuss possibilities. And we do also have a fund in the WCU Foundation to support the work. That's been really important for sustaining the work and for positioning us to be able to apply for federal grants. So absolutely appreciate the donors who have contributed to that fund, and would encourage you to reach out to me or to the foundation if you have an interest in supporting the work. And if other community members are interested in just staying connected, learning more, we have an Instagram, a YouTube channel, and I'm always open to conversations. So definitely reach out.
Well, thank you all so much. And please, obviously, if you're watching and you want to be involved, don't hesitate to reach out. But I want to thank you all for jumping on here and explaining a little bit about the research, and wish the best of luck to you, especially with the new partnership and the new lab that's coming. It sounds incredibly exciting and sounds like there's going to be a lot of work ahead, but work that is benefiting the community and obviously benefiting everybody that's involved in it as well. So it sounds like there's amazing research that's being done. So thank you again for joining us on Ramblings Live, and make sure that you follow up with them if you have any questions to be involved. And we'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks so much, Justin.
So long, everybody. So that right there, right over there, that's Dr. Ellie Brown, who joined us for Ramblings Live. And if you want to get in touch with her, by all means, please do. Dr. Brown, we'll see you sometime soon around campus. And for lunch, you have to figure out somewhere to go for lunch in Westchester. Good seeing you.
Thanks. Take care.
We have Ramblings Lives that are diving into Rams in research throughout the month, so make sure that you tune back in right here to the Westchester University alumni page for that. Until next time, my name is Justin Sachoka. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you for Ramblings Live sometime soon.